FPUC will likely land somewhere between $400 and $600 a week, but how soon could you see that money? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons LALATE. Hope you're great and safe. Afternoons LALATE starts every day at 3:30. Starts with a check, then goes to FPUC to hazard pay, then FPUC and rent assistance coming up next. Big developments on FPUC overnight, and this video for the first time in a while is going to go through with you why FPUC is a little bit more complicated than broadcast news is suggesting, and why you have to understand that FPUC goes on top of PUA and UI, and what's the status of unemployment benefits as we sit here right today. Let me get right to the details. The current situation of FPUC is a mixture of both negotiations and executive order. On Saturday, the president issued an executive order that really is a hot mess express unto itself because it's not clear, it's ineffective, it doesn't technically work, and it won't legally hold up. Let me explain to you what's wrong. FPUC let me actually back up. FPUC was adopted in the first stimulus package back in May as a relief that would go on top of UI and PUA benefits. And in fact, PUA benefits did not exist before that. That was also created in the bill. The bill created three things: FPUC, PUA, which I'm getting to in a second, and the extension of UI benefits, PEUC, which I'm going to get to as well as a second. The problem with that bill is actually two things, and I'm very critical about it today. First, they allowed all these things to expire and wrote the bill so they would expire on a date, which was a horrible, horrible error. They should have written the items to expire when economic data changed. For example, tied it to unemployment rates, saying that when unemployment rates dropped to less than 1 million per week, then FPUC expire. Rather, they gave it a termination date, and by doing that, it literally meant it stopped. What happened was FPUC is paid out from the federal government and routed to the states that then send you the money. But every state sends you money on a weekly basis on a different day of the week. So some states ended up not paying the last 2 weeks of FPUC, and other states ended up not paying the last week of FPUC. As we sit here on a Tuesday, and we're almost heading into the next week pretty soon, the question is, how many weeks of FPUC will you not get paid for until this agreement is reached? And what is that executive order going to do for you? First, the executive order is going to do nothing for you, as viewers keep on asking me. Viewers are asking me overwhelmingly overnight, when am I getting $400 for FPUC? First, you're not going to get any money from this executive order by all indications because of two things. One, the order is unlawful, and two, states aren't going to act on it and pay it. First, the order is unlawful. The president, by executive order, cannot send out money for the Treasury. It's black and white law. I can read the quotes. I'm not going to bore you on it. Someone is going to go to court, and a temporary injunction is going to be issued within 24 hours, and the law will be invalidated by emergency order. But what's more important to understand is the states just won't pay it as well. The states don't have the technical ability to do these advanced calculations. They've informed the Treasury Secretary they're not going to do it. So they're not going to actually spend the $400. And the executive order actually says if the states can't pay it, who cares? In fact, I have a quote from the president from last Saturday, right before he issued the executive order, said, what if the states don't pay? He says, well, then they don't pay it. That's their problem. Then he made it sort of sound like a partisan fight. Bottom line is you're not going to see the $400. So the way you'll see FPUC land in your bank account is when Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi reach an agreement. And the great news is that the agreement will be reached because they have ostensibly almost reached the agreement. Here is the rub. Over 2 weeks ago, I reported that Nancy and Steve Mnuchin reached an agreement on FPUC about two major items. One, term. They reached an agreement that FPUC would be paid until December 31st. if not January 1st, which is sensibly the same time. 2, they agreed upon a general framework of the amount of money. It was going to land somewhere between $400 to $600. Nancy Pelosi said she would go to the mat for $600, but at the time, the Republicans started at 0, then 200, then a blending of 200 and something, then a blending of 400. Ultimately, the Republicans offered $400, but not a pure $400. And Nancy Pelosi said no. They also offered $600 for 1 week, and Nancy Pelosi said yes, but not for 1 week. I'll do it all the way to January 21. The great news is that the parties will and have sensibly said they will agree to somewhere between $400 to $600 per week. It'll be a pure payout. It won't be the strange $100, $200 thing. It'll come the way in which the original FPUC came, and it will be routed out retroactively. Now, here is the question that some viewers have asked me. How do I get the money, and how do I get that FPUC? Now, here is something very important for you to understand. FPUC is for people who are already getting FPUC. It's not something that some channels with the clickbait like that or like this have said literally in the last 48 hours. There's a new free stimulus check, and they are taking the number $400 a week, and they're times it by 4 weeks in the month, and they're saying you're getting a stimulus check of $1,600. You're getting free money of $1,600. The federal government's sending out $1,600. It's totally untrue. Let me explain what FPUC is. FPUC, adopted in the first stimulus package, goes on top of your UI and PUA benefits. What I hope you've already done, because I've been doing these videos for a while, is you applied for UI benefits when the pandemic started. Now, if you haven't watched this video, and please focus on how you apply, and that's why I'm doing this video, because there are 7,000 new subscribers since yesterday alone. So I'm going to walk you through UI and PUA, how to apply, how to get that FPUC on top of it when it becomes law again, and get this money. First, you have to determine whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. An employee is someone who works for Macy's. An independent contractor is someone who is self-employed, like an Uber Lyft driver. Someone has their own business. That's an independent contractor. If you're an independent contractor, you're PUA. If you're an employee, you're a UI. Where do you get this money? You do all the applications on your state's unemployment website. You go to your state, and they either have one of two situations. They either have one application for both of them or a separate application for each of them. Most states, the vast majority of all states, require you to apply for UI if you're a PUA person and get a rejection before you do PUA. I'll say that again because it's a little strange. Most states require, if you're an independent contractor seeking PUA, to get a denial for UI because you're not an employee first before you apply for PUA. It's just something they do. I haven't done the next couple of things in a while, but it was a very big hot topic at the time, and I think it will be again, so I'm going to answer this right now. People had said, I'm on both UI and PUA, or can I go from UI to PUA, or can I go from PUA to UI? No, 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 and no. You can't be one and the other. It's one or the other. So if you are UI, you can't also be PUA. If your UI runs out, you can't jump over to PUA. If you're on PUA, you can't jump over to UI. You can't get checks for both things at the same time. No, 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 and no. Next, the way you go through this application process is you go through and you apply for what's called eligibility. It's like filing an insurance claim. You tell them what happened, you go through there, and then they determine whether you're eligible. And they'll give you an eligibility notification. Thank you. You are now eligible for this. And so if you get that eligibility notice, it'll say something like, you are now eligible for PUA from this date to December 31st. They generally do like a 1-year time frame or to the end of the calendar year in their eligibility notification. Now, this is singularly the most important thing I always tell viewers about. I've been doing This channel launched on, I'm laughing because I'm remembering where I was and what I looked like and how I did it. On April 25th, this channel launched, and I was that kid with the spiky hair, as some people said, on the beach, a deserted beach with a t-shirt. I was more casual then. And I said, PUA, and you do this and you do that. And I had a lot of fingers. I was moving my hands too much and moving my head too much. I had to tone it down. But I said one thing very clear. When you apply for PUA or UI, make sure you get the eligibility date correct. The eligibility date must be correct, because if it's incorrect, it's nearly impossible to fix it. What am I talking about? Here is the example of what happens. If you are watching this video today and you were laid off on March 15th, but you're just learning about PUA today and you think, I'll go apply for some PUA when it goes live or when it is live or whatever, and it asks what eligibility date you start at, you say, oh, today. Guess what you just did with that mistake? You listed August 11th instead of March 15th, which you said was your eligibility day. So you lost the month of March, April, May, June, July. You lost 5 months times 4 weeks a month, 20 weeks of benefits, 20 weeks of money you just lost because you made one entry error. Yeah, you don't want to make that mistake. If we're talking about base level benefits in your state of like 169 and FPUC on top of that, or whatever it's going to be, $600 or $400, whatever it's going to be, that's about $600, $800 a week times how many weeks I just tell you? It's a buttload of money. It's a lot of money you just made an error about. So don't make that error. Don't make that error. If you're applying for PUA, or had you applied for PUA, there are classifications, and the most common classifications are that you had a job but couldn't go to it because it was closed, like a school, or you couldn't reach the place of employment, like there was a shutdown in the entire city, you couldn't go to that place. Or the most common one, which I always talked about for PUA, was that your number of hours were reduced but not completely eliminated because of PUA. An example of that is someone who usually works 75 hours a week but only got 2 hours a week as an independent contractor. That is an example of why you qualify for PUA. I've had viewers ask me, I never worked before, can I go get UI? No, I mean, I don't know if it's like a trick questions when I get these questions. It's just like Trump the announcer. It's not Trump, but trick the announcer. Can I go get unemployment if I've never been employed? I don't. What do you think? So no, you can't get unemployed if you've never been employed. It just doesn't work that way. And then some people were like, I sort of cleaned some people's yard for a few days last year. Can I go get that PUA? No. I see what you're doing. Just no, and no. Next, when you get the eligibility that eligibility done, then you need to certify for benefits. I remember specifically the video I recorded where I read the comment, and I kept on telling, this viewer kept on saying to me, LLA, I got approval for PUA. I never got a penny. Why am I not getting a penny? Why don't I have to? I said, you certify for benefits? What's that? Certify for benefits? Huh? I said, certify for benefits. I know I have a strange accent to some people. I'm not that strange. Certify, S-C-E-R-T-I-F-Y. Certify for benefits. Oh. Yeah, so where it works is you go into your portal, the portal of your website where you apply for unemployment benefits. When you're approved, you have to go in there and click the button which says certify or certify for benefits, or certification for benefits. And then it'll ask you the week ending March 29th. What happened? The week ending April 5th, what happened? And it'll ask you a series of questions. You go through the series of questions. You need to click those buttons. And when you click those buttons, then it'll say, hey, process, congratulations, process. And you'll go to the pending window and say, payment pending. Hey, and I remember reading the comment from the viewers like, oh, okay, now I see all this money pending. I never knew that's what I was supposed to do. And that's so critical. Now, when you go through those questions, you need to answer them the correct way. And the two questions you need to really, really answer correctly are the following: the physical ability to work and the mental ability to work. One of the questions will ask, would you have been willing to work if you're offered a job? Answer, yes. That's the mental one. Would you have been physically able to work if you're offered a job? Answer, yes. That's the physical one. Did I say that right? Mental one, physical. You got the point. Next, when you apply for PUA, you have to understand that you are not an employee. So a lot of you have a business, like an LLC, and the business employs you. That's not how PUA thinks. So no matter what you ever do in the application, you are never an employee. So if it asks, did you work as a place of employment this last week? No, you're not an employee. Employment means employee. So it's not talking about gig work or self-employed work. It's called place of employment. So the answer is no for all those. Finally, extension of UI benefits. And I saw a couple questions about that overnight, about 100 of them. People are saying, I'm about to run out of UI benefits or PUA benefits. What do I do, LLA? So PUA benefits should not have run out for you by now. They can't have run out because PUA under the CARES Act was provided about 33 plus weeks. I don't remember the exact number. It was 33 or 39 or 30 weeks. And we're not at that. It hasn't been 30 something weeks since March or May. That's the first thing. UI, you have 3 levels of benefits. The first benefits you have are the normal weeks of benefits your state normally has by law. So let's say in South Dakota has a certain number of weeks for UI benefits normally in any environment. I don't know what it is, whatever it is. Let's say 20, for example. Then the CARES Act passed, hopefully I remember the letters, FPEUC, which was an extension of unemployment benefits for extra weeks. So you need to look up those number of weeks and say, oh, that's on top of those weeks that LLA just talked about. Then the next element is you have to remember how many weeks of extended benefits are. So if Tom, Terry, Tony, or Larry say to you, the state passed extended benefits last week. What's extended benefits? Well, the states have inherent authority to give you additional weeks of benefits under an emergency order, and most of the states have invoked that emergency order. So they're saying we're going to give you 10 more weeks of extended benefits, called extended benefits. So you need to look that up. So if you're on UI, you have 3 possible items that give you weeks of benefits. So I'm glad I did this video for you. I haven't done this particular video in a while, but I got so many questions overnight about PUA and FPUC and UI that I really had to answer the question. People were emailing me and texting me and saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? Understand that FPUC goes on top of UI and PUA. It was $600 a week. It stopped. You've now not gotten those weeks. You will go those weeks retroactively because it looks like both the Democrats and Republicans want to give you retroactive weeks. I don't think that $400 is going to be effectuated. I don't think anyone's going to see $400 a week. I do think the parties are going to get back to the table and negotiate. And that once they do, these monies will be routed out to you. Don't expect $400 a week to come this week. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't see it happening. Prove me wrong. I just don't think it's going to be happening. I'm not saying it on a partisan level. I just don't think it's going to happen this week. But if it does, that's why you have to go to the front channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. 7,000 of you did yesterday. Wow, great community we're building here. Wonderful family. And I send you alerts, whether it's an Uber and Lyft injunction decision, whether it's a shooting at the White House, whether it's a major development in COVID-19 or a Russian bot that claims that there's a vaccine in Russia, which there's not now. Hit that subscribe and alert button and you'll get updates as soon as something happens. As always, stay motivated, stay inspired. And coming up next on LALATE is rent assistance. Stay of LA for more.